Imagine waking up tomorrow and everyone in your city is just gone. No goodbyes, no explanations. Houses full of food still on the table, clothes hanging in closets, children's toys left in the middle of play, but not a single person remains. This isn't science fiction. This actually happened in the American Southwest, right here in Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and New Mexico. An advanced civilization of over 30,000 people built magnificent cities into the sides of cliffs. Multi-story apartment complexes, elaborate road networks, a thriving culture that lasted over 1,000 years. And then, around the year 1300 AD, they all left. Every single person. Within just a few decades, these massive cities were completely abandoned. No mass graves, no evidence of warfare, no natural disaster that could explain it. They just vanished. For over 700 years, scientists have been trying to solve this mystery, and what they've discovered is far more disturbing than you might think. Before we dive in, do me a quick favor, hit that like button right now, and make sure you watch this video all the way to the end, because the truth about what happened is absolutely shocking. And if you love mysteries from history, subscribe to Beyond the Timeline and turn on notifications so you never miss our weekly documentaries every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon Eastern Time. This is the story of the Anasazi, the ancient ones, and the mystery that still haunts the American Southwest. Let's start at the beginning. Who were these people, and why don't we learn about them in school? The Anasazi, also called the Ancestral Puebloans, were one of the most advanced civilizations in pre-Columbian North America. And here's what most people don't know. They were building sophisticated architecture while Europe was in the Dark Ages. Think about that for a second. While medieval Europeans were living in crude wooden huts, the Anasazi were constructing multi-story stone buildings with hundreds of rooms. They had advanced irrigation systems, organized agriculture, and a complex social structure. Their territory covered over 100,000 square miles across the Four Corners region, where Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and New Mexico meet today. At their peak, around 1200 AD, their population reached somewhere between 20,000 to 40,000 people. For comparison, that's larger than medieval London at the same time. But here's where it gets really interesting. The Anasazi weren't just primitive cave dwellers. They were master builders. Their most famous settlement, Mesa Verde in Colorado, features cliff dwellings built directly into the rock faces of canyon walls. The largest of these, called Cliff Palace, had 150 rooms and could house over 100 people. And this wasn't the only one. They built hundreds of these communities throughout the region. Chaco Canyon in New Mexico was their capital, a massive complex with buildings up to 5 stories tall, connected by an ancient highway system spanning hundreds of miles. Yes, you heard that right. They built roads. These weren't random dirt paths either. Archaeologists have found evidence of 400 miles of engineered roads, some up to 30 feet wide, perfectly straight across the desert landscape. Why would they need roads this advanced? We still don't fully know. The Anasazi were also master astronomers. Many of their buildings were precisely aligned with solar and lunar events. They tracked the summer and winter solstices, probably for agricultural and religious purposes. They had a deep understanding of mathematics, architecture, and engineering that rivals civilizations we consider far more advanced. They created stunning pottery, intricate jewelry, and elaborate textiles. They traded with civilizations as far south as Mexico, importing things like macaw feathers, copper bells, and cacao. Yes, chocolate. This was a thriving, sophisticated society. So what happened to them? Around 1150 AD, something started to change. And by 1300 AD, in the span of just 150 years, the Anasazi completely abandoned their cities. All of them. Mesa Verde, Chaco Canyon, every major settlement in the Four Corners region. Empty. And here's what's truly bizarre. They left everything behind. Archaeologists have found pots still filled with corn, tools lying on floors, sandals left at doorways. It's as if the inhabitants just stood up one day and walked away, never planning to return. Now you might be thinking, maybe they were attacked, maybe there was a war. But here's the thing, and this is what other creators don't tell you. There's very little evidence of violence during the abandonment period. No destroyed buildings, No mass burial sites, no skeletons with weapons embedded in them. Whatever caused them to leave, it wasn't a sudden invasion. Some archaeologists have found isolated evidence of violence in the years leading up to the abandonment. Burned buildings here, bodies showing signs of trauma there, but nothing that explains why an entire civilization would completely evacuate their homeland. Another strange detail: they didn't just scatter randomly. Archaeologists have traced their migration routes, and here's what's fascinating. They moved south and east into what is now New Mexico and Arizona. They integrated with other Pueblo communities. Their descendants are still alive today. That's right, the Anasazi didn't actually vanish, they transformed. But that still doesn't answer the real question. Why did they leave behind these incredible cities they'd spent centuries building? Let's explore the theories, and I'm going to share evidence that most documentaries completely ignore. If you're finding this fascinating, smash that like button and drop a comment telling me which ancient mystery I should cover next. Your engagement helps this channel grow, and I read every single comment. The most popular scientific theory is environmental collapse, specifically a catastrophic drought. Tree ring analysis, called dendrochronology, shows that between 1276 and 1299 AD, the American Southwest experienced one of the worst droughts in the last 2,000 years. For 23 years straight, rainfall was significantly below normal. Now, a 23-year drought might not sound like that big of a deal to us today, but remember, the Anasazi were farmers. They relied on consistent rainfall to grow corn, beans, and squash. Without water, crops fail. Without crops, people starve. Archaeologists have found evidence that by the late 1200s, the Anasazi were showing signs of nutritional stress. Skeletal remains from this period show signs of malnutrition, disease, and infant mortality increases. But here's the problem with the drought theory, and this is where it gets interesting. The Anasazi had survived droughts before. In fact, they'd endured multiple severe droughts over their 1,000-year history. Between 1130 and 1180 AD, there was an even worse drought, and they didn't abandon their cities then. They adapted. They built better irrigation systems. They changed their farming techniques. So why was this drought different? Some scientists argue it was the last straw, that the population had grown too large for the environment to support, that they'd overfarmed the land, depleted the soil, and cut down too many trees for building materials. Sound familiar? It's basically ancient climate collapse caused by unsustainable practices. By 1300 AD, the theory goes, the land could no longer support them, even in good times. The drought just accelerated the inevitable. But not all scientists agree with this explanation, because there's evidence of something far more disturbing happening during this period. Now we get to the part most documentaries avoid because it's controversial, but we're diving deep here. In the decades before the abandonment, there's evidence of increasing violence in Anasazi society. Not from outside invaders, but from within. Archaeologists have found burned towers, defensive walls built around previously open communities, and most disturbingly, human remains showing signs of extreme violence. Cut marks on bones, skulls crushed by blunt force, bodies thrown into trash heaps instead of receiving proper burials. And then there's the really dark part. In the 1990s, physical anthropologist Christy Turner analyzed over 800 sets of human remains from 76 Anasazi sites. His findings were shocking. Many showed evidence of systematic processing. Bones broken open to extract marrow, skulls smashed to access brains, and cooking pot residues containing human proteins. His conclusion? Cannibalism. Now, before you think I'm sensationalizing, this is peer-reviewed research published in academic journals. Turner argued that the Anasazi practiced ritualistic cannibalism, possibly as psychological warfare between competing groups, or as a response to extreme starvation during the droughts. But here's where it gets even more complex. Many Native American scholars and archaeologists strongly dispute this theory. They argue that the evidence could be explained by other factors. Violence during warfare, yes, but not necessarily cannibalism. They point out that Turner's interpretation may be influenced by racist colonial narratives that portrayed Native Americans as savages. And they have a point. Similar bone modifications could result from secondary burial practices, where bodies are moved and reburied later, or from animal scavenging. So what's the truth? Honestly, we don't know for sure. But what we do know is that Anasazi society was experiencing extreme internal stress in its final decades. Maybe it was drought-induced famine leading to social breakdown. Maybe it was warfare between competing groups over dwindling resources. Maybe it was a complete collapse of their social structure. Whatever it was, it made staying in their ancestral homeland impossible. But here's what most creators don't tell you, and this is the most important part of the story. The Anasazi didn't disappear. They didn't die out. They didn't vanish into thin air. They migrated. Modern Pueblo peoples, the Hopi, Zuni, Acoma, and others, are the direct descendants of the Anasazi. This isn't speculation. This is confirmed through linguistic analysis, oral traditions, DNA evidence, and archaeological tracking of migration routes. When you ask Pueblo elders about the abandonment, they don't call it a mystery. They call it a migration. In their oral histories, passed down through generations, the ancestors left the Four Corners region because they had completed their spiritual journey there. According to Hopi tradition, the people were instructed by their gods to migrate until they found their destined homeland. The cliff dwellings and Chaco Canyon were temporary stops on a longer spiritual journey. And here's the fascinating part. Pueblo architecture, pottery styles, and cultural practices show clear continuity with Anasazi culture. It's not that the civilization ended, it transformed and continued in a new location. So why did they leave? The answer is probably all of the above. Environmental stress from the mega drought made their homeland unsustainable. Social conflict and violence may have broken out as resources became scarce. And at the same time, religious and cultural factors influenced their decision to migrate south to more fertile lands along the Rio Grande. It wasn't a mystery to them. It was a choice, a difficult, necessary choice for survival. But here's the haunting question that remains. Why did they never return? Even after the drought ended, even after the rains came back, the cliff dwellings remained empty. These magnificent cities, built with so much effort and skill, were abandoned forever. Maybe the land had been depleted beyond recovery. Maybe too many bad memories remained. Maybe their new lives in the Rio Grande Valley were simply better. Or maybe, as some scholars suggest, the religious significance of the migration meant returning would be unthinkable. Once they left, the old cities became sacred sites, places of the ancestors, not places for the living. Today, you can visit Mesa Verde National Park and walk through these ancient cities. You can stand in rooms where families lived 800 years ago. You can climb the same ladders, touch the same stone walls, and look out over the same canyon views. And when you do, you're not looking at a mystery. You're looking at a testament to human resilience. The Anasazi faced environmental catastrophe, social upheaval, and impossible choices. And they survived. They adapted. They moved. They rebuilt. Their descendants are still here, keeping the traditions alive, honoring the ancestors who made that difficult journey. So the next time someone tells you the Anasazi mysteriously vanished, you can correct them. They didn't vanish. They evolved. They made the hardest decision any civilization can make, to leave behind everything they'd built in search of a better future. And that's not a mystery. That's just human history. The real mystery is why we're so fascinated by disappearance when the truth, survival, adaptation, transformation, is so much more powerful. If this video changed your perspective on ancient history, please hit that like button and share it with someone who loves mysteries. Subscribe to Beyond the Timeline for more untold stories from history every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon Eastern Time. Turn on notifications so you don't miss a single upload. Drop a comment and let me know. What other vanished civilizations should I cover? The Maya, the Indus Valley, Easter Island? And if you made it to the end, comment Anasazi so I know you're part of the real history community. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video, where we explore another incredible story from Beyond the Timeline.